You're listening to a Channel Zero Network podcast. The Channel Zero Network is a decentralized network of anarchist podcasts bringing you analysis of current events, media criticism, rebellious music, interviews with academics and authors, how-tos, and so much more.
This is The Final Straw Radio, a weekly anarchist and anti-authoritarian radio show broadcasting out of occupied Salagi land in southern Appalachia.
Hello, and welcome to Live Like the World is Dying, your podcast for what feels like the end times. I'm your host, Margaret Killjoy.
What's up, y'all? I'm Pearson, host of Coffee with Comrades.
Hello, this is Linda. You're listening to Subversion 1312 on the Channel Zero Network.
Whether you are anarcho-curious or a hardened militant, CZN's ever-growing roster of programs has something for you. Head over to channelzeronetwork.com to find out more.
Welcome to RebelSteps. I'm your host, Liz. As we round out this historically challenging year, it feels important to take a moment to reflect. In this episode, you'll be hearing from a bunch of our comrades, many who have appeared on previous episodes, and some who are podcasters in the Channel Zero Network. Before I pass it over to them, I'd like to share a few of my own New Year's thoughts. This year, I'm grateful that we have not given up. I've been encouraged by the outpouring of mutual aid that has happened, by the huge protests that pushed abolition into the spotlight, and by the new tenant organizations that have sprung up all over. Looking forward, I hope the new year will bring a continuation of the burst of energy seen this year. As a podcast, we've grown a lot and we've learned a lot. Not only did we release our second season, but we also put out 4 Rent Strike episodes, an episode on abolition, and a Street Action episode. And don't worry, part 2 of Street Action is coming soon. We also learned we can put together an episode in just 48 hours if needed, which is how we created our first Rent Strike episode. I'm really honored that so many of you have listened to our podcast and shared it with others. I'm looking forward to continuing to share audio adventures with you in the new year. On a personal note, I too have had a bizarre year. I was furloughed for months, I went on rent strike, and my co-strikers and I won multiple months' rent from our landlord. I attended huge marches that were lined with onlookers banging pots and pans in appreciation, handing out water bottles and hand sanitizer, and just generally cheering us on. I rode my bike in bike caravans across many of New York City's bridges. I'm coming out of it all a little exhausted, but also with a new understanding of what I'm capable of and what our movements are capable of. I feel like I've caught a glimpse of what a truly large-scale popular movement can accomplish. I'm looking forward to applying myself to the struggles to come as an older, wiser version of myself in the new year. I'm ready to continue making the podcast, do some eviction defense, make more masks, and attend more actions. Lastly, I want to leave you with a poem by Martin Espada entitled Angels of Bread. Then stay tuned for words from our friends. Imagine the Angels of Bread by Martin Espada. This is the year that squatters evict landlords, gazing like admirals from the rail of the roof deck or levitating hands in praise of steam in the shower. This is the year that shawled refugees deport judges, who stare at the floor and their swollen feet as files are stamped with their destination. This is the year that police revolvers, stove-hot, blister the fingers of raging cops, and nightsticks splinter in their palm. This is the year that dark-skinned men lynched a century ago returned to sip coffee quietly with the apologizing descendants of their executioners. This is the year that those who swim the border's undertow and shiver in boxcars are greeted with trumpets and drums at the first railroad crossing on the other side. This is the year that the hands pulling tomatoes from the vine uproot the deed to the earth that sprouts the vine. The hands canning tomatoes are named in the will that owns the bedlam of the cannery. This is the year that eyes stinging from the poison that purifies toilets awaken at last to the sight of a rooster-loud hillside. Pilgrimage of immigrant birth. This is the year that cockroaches become extinct, that no doctor finds a roach embedded in the ear of an infant. This is the year that the food stamps of adolescent mothers are auctioned like gold doubloons, and no coin is given to buy machetes for the next bouquet of severed heads in coffee plantation country. If the abolition of slave manacles began as a vision of hands without manacles, then this is the year. If the shutdown of extermination camps began as imagination of a land without barbed wire or the crematorium, then this is the year. If every rebellion begins with the idea that conquerors on horseback are not many-legged gods, that they too drown if plunged in the river, then this is the year. So may every humiliated mouth, teeth like desecrated headstones, fill with the angels of bread.
Hey RebelSteps, this is David Campbell. You may know me as Jason if you listened to the episode I was in the first season. And I just want to say, hey, what's up? Big thanks to everybody who supported me while I was in. And it's great to be out. It's been a weird year. I know a lot of really crazy stuff, most of it shitty, has happened. But there have been a lot of opportunities for things that I really never thought I'd see in my lifetime to come to light. So that's pretty sweet. In Rikers in March, when coronavirus was getting really crazy, I was part of a very short but very, very cool work slowdown strike to get PPE and to demand people be released. And that was something that was totally unexpected. And it was really amazing to see these really strong bonds of solidarity form like instantly and actually, be kind of successful. There's a lot of things that have gone on in the past year on the outside, particularly with the Floyd rebellion, that are really encouraging. And I think we may have turned a corner on a lot of issues in kind of the popular conception in a lot of ways. At least I hope so. Personally, I spent a lot of time reading and writing in the past year, and I really like that too. So those are all things I'd like to see continue in the coming year. Personally, I'm going to try to keep reading and writing as much as possible. And I'd like to see our movement continue to gain momentum and broaden its appeal. And I hope that even if Biden has won and the transition goes as smoothly as possible, we don't get complacent. I hope we still care for each other. We find each other. We keep building a better world, and we keep the fash on their heels. Take care, everybody.
Hey, this is JR, host of Submedia's new Circle A podcast. However you're choosing to celebrate or avoid celebrating the holidays this year, here's hoping you stay healthy and have a ton of good times.
Season's greetings, RebelSteps listeners and comrades. My name's Pearson, host of the podcast Coffee with Comrades, a proud part of the Rev Left Radio Federation and the Channel Zero Network. God, what a year it's been. From COVID-19 to tenant organizing, from Black Lives Matter uprisings to prison abolition demonstrations, from mutual aid gardening to community defense, 2020 has been one for the history books. Through it all, I've been so fucking inspired by the resiliency, autonomy, and determination of my friends and comrades, and floored by our many victories. In an era of isolation and atomization, our communities have pulled together like never before to help one another in the midst of this global pandemic. The struggle for a revolutionary transformation of society continues apace, no matter what the future may hold. Forever yours in joyful love and solidarity, Pearson.
Hi, my name is Maura, and I'm a friend of RebelSteps, and I'm an anarchist. I am also a doctoral student in art history, and I teach art history too. First, though, I want to say thank you, RebelSteps, for creating this podcast, inviting me in to participate in this special New Year's episode, and putting such thought and care into the work that you share with people. I really admire it. Reflections on this year. I've experienced a level of stress this year I'd like to never meet again if I can avoid it. But I also found a younger, wiser version of myself that offers great advice, like listening to Kate Bush and indulging in really excellent work by people like Fred Moten, Saidiya Hartman, and the folks who gave us those amazing images of the precinct on fire in Minneapolis. I hope people realize how images affect who they become, who they already are, and that defying the state and its institutions requires creativity that isn't necessarily public knowledge yet. And I hope people are inspired to nurture that creativity rather than fit it into a box of a specific political agenda or Instagram story, for example. And I hope I can do that too. I love the winter season, other than the bitterness that the cold brings and how shit weather makes daily tasks more challenging. I love winter. I will complain about it, no doubt, but it is delightful to me. It's a good time for paradox. Everything is so miserable that it's easy to see what isn't. All that good stuff that doesn't get a moment to shine, and that the other seasons really stands out in the winter.
Hi there, my name is Karl and I'm working with the Anarchist Radio Berlin. We try to do reports on local, national and international struggles in different languages and on multiple fronts. You can check our work at aradio-berlin.org. For me personally, it's a pleasure to see all these beautiful podcasts popping up on Channel Zero Network, and I'm quite impressed by the collaboration and coordination that's happening there. I just hope, and I do think, that making radio might still support and push forward the idea of radical change. Does not look too much alike in the visions around me, but that's what's about to happen in 2021, maybe. Wish all you folks a great start into the next year. Hear you soon. A lot of greetings from Berlin. Bye.
Hello, my name's Jack Hogan. I'm thinking about what to keep from this year. Even in advance of this pandemic, we've been constrained by increasing levels of enclosure. Monadic people push to individuate, who encounter blockages and frontiers at every turn. The Overton window was smashed in March, April and May, but the ruling classes are pasting its shards back into the frame. One thing to keep from the past few months is the refocus on the local as the political form of the international. There's arguably been less corporate control of offline social life, with private spaces largely closed. Winter will make outdoor gatherings hard and require a rethink to maintain the ability to live a life together for free. The revolutionary value of imagination, which many have re-engaged during the pandemic, will be needed to maintain the pursuit of a collective capacity to produce, share, care and enjoy via mutual aid, self-organization, direct action and voluntary association, all practiced amidst a system that privatizes survival. This is what Herbert Marcuse calls images of a gratification that would destroy the society that suppresses it. Ubiquitous spectres of illicit modes of sociality that make ongoing, other, richer worlds.
Hey everybody, it is Brett from Revolutionary Left Radio, Red Menace, and our newest show, Guerrilla History. As you know, I am a Marxist dedicated to political education and playing my humble role in trying to build a better world for all of us. 2020 was a hell of a year. We're all limping out of it, traumatized, defeated, sad, but also hopeful, with new comrades, with new consciousness, with new forms of awakening. And that is the precarity and the double-sidedness of life. We take our lumps, we suffer through horrific events, historical events that haven't happened for generations, multiple events layered on top of each other, but we come out the other end stronger, with deeper connections and even more commitment to radically altering the way that the global political and economic system is shaped. My hopes for 2021 is that the left can continue to build up a revolutionary culture, a revolutionary insistence on dual power, taking care of each other through mutual aid and community self-defense, rejecting the worship of the self, the cult of the self that is promoted in this hyper-atomized market, not only economy, but as we all know, market society, a worldview, an entire system dictated by the comings and goings, the machinations of the market. It is an anti-human system, and only through being humane to one another and self-actualizing the full potential of our humanness can we hope to combat it on the spiritual front, as well as on the political, economic, and social front. Love and solidarity, keep your head up, keep fighting. We have a world to win.
Buen día. Me llamo Julián. Grabo este mensaje. My name is Julian. I'm recording this message from Lenapehoking, Paumanok, in what is currently known as Jackson Heights, Queens. I'd like to say that I know, and it's very clear to me, that we're in the middle of winter, and the Festival of Lights, Hanukkah, and the solstice are approaching. The nights are getting darker, colder, more endless, it seems. Things are harder in all the ways. In spite of this, we must dare to be free, to be so by ourselves and for ourselves in community. And so it shall be. But in these uncertain times of pandemic, neoliberalism, and ascendant fascism, we need to move forward carefully and through care. We shouldn't harden our hearts, but melt them, to be more open to the impossibility of the possible. Isn't that freedom? Enthusiastic, uncontrollable, illicit, joyous, intoxicating, rebellious. And in this we need all the help we can get. From our neighbors and friends, across oceans and borders and forests, and the stars, and the space between them all of our lineages and pasts, our ancestors and spirits and mysteries, our guides in the struggle, in art, in word, in music, in the dance of life and its spectacle, the unforgettable sweetness, the unity that's in all of us, the material and spiritual and infinite solidarity. These are some of the key ingredients to bring about a new world based on our dreams, needs, desires, and our actions. May this coming year and all of the years after be passionate, full of love, care, camaraderie, and rebellion. Stay firm and take care. Y cuídense.
Hey, my name is Gray, he, they, from NYC, and I'm coming at you by way of two groups. First, Pop Gym, which does pretty regular self-defense workshops around NYC, and second, the Cyber Collective, which does cybersecurity workshops around NYC. Check out both groups on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also check out their winter workshops as we work our way through quarantine. 2020 gave me a lot of time to think about my activism, both in terms of what I have put energy into in the past and what I would like to continue working on in the year to come. I was very much inspired by this idea of joyful militancy, or in addition to doing the activist work which is necessary but maybe burns me out over time, focusing on projects, informations, and people that actually gave me energy or motivation or inspiration instead of just taking it away all the time. It is within the projects that I work with, both Pop Gym and Cyber, where I find joy, and I know it to be true because I keep coming back to these concepts of self-defense and community defense, even when the world and its prospects seem very bleak to me. They keep me going not just as an activist, but they keep me fulfilled as a person as well. My hope for 2020 is that we all find something that gives us a bit of joyful militancy, whether it is something as big as a new project, or just finding some folks in our lives who support us in the everyday, maybe physically, maybe emotionally, maybe spiritually, maybe some combination of all three. This in itself may not make things perfect for us for all times going forward, but it can do a lot to give us a little bit of hope, which in these and every other uncertain time can be the most important thing we can share with one another and have for ourselves when things feel tougher than normal. As we say in Pop Gym, non-denominational seasons hello to all, and we hope you and your community stay as safe as possible in the coming year. Always feel free to reach out to us and see us as a resource to your work, and we'll see y'all in 2021.
This is Matthew Whitley from the Metropolitan Anarchist Coordinating Council and NYC and the Emergency Committee for Rojava. My resolution this year is a simple one: to remember to celebrate our successes even as we continue to struggle. Over the last year, we've dealt heavy blows to the organized far right, deplatforming them in the streets and online. We've seen Trump ushered from power and watched the capitalist consensus continue to crumble. The George Floyd rebellion has put racialized policing and carceral capitalism under siege. Defund the police and abolition now are now household slogans. The coronavirus has been a tragic demonstration of inequality, but it has also bred mutual aid networks, rent strikes, eviction defense networks, and tenants' unions across the United States. The pandemic has interconnected our struggles on a profound level. Self-management, direct democracy, and economies of cooperation, solidarity are entering the practice of daily life like never before. Internationally, movements like Zapatismo in Chiapas and Democratic Confederalism in North and East Syria continue to thrive despite constant attacks. Every day they persist with our solidarity is a victory, another blow to the logic that there is no alternative. In this new year, I will celebrate a generation that once again believes in liberation, and I will honor all of those who have taken enormous risks, who have struggled to transform our world. Happy New Year.
Greetings, Rebel Stepsters. This is Clara from the Ex-Worker podcast. 2020 was the weirdest and most intense year in my lifetime to be an anarchist. We've been blamed for riots, violence, disorder, and practically everything else. Entire cities have been labeled anarchist jurisdictions. CrimethInc has been called out in congressional testimony, banned by Facebook, and slammed in the New York Times. Why do they perceive us as such a threat? In part, because the things we've been saying all along, that American democracy is a sham, that policing can't be reformed, that mutual aid works where the state fails, that direct action is what really makes change. These basic anarchist principles are becoming obvious to more and more people. Our collective political imagination contracted and expanded in 3 huge cycles this year. When COVID hit this spring, we feared that fascism was here and protest was dead. Then the explosive wave of anti-racist uprisings over the summer changed everything. Within weeks, rioting and direct action had spread unstoppably. Abolishing the police became a serious national discussion, and practically anything seemed possible. And then this fall, before we could blink, it was like a massive sphincter of possibility had just clenched shut once again with the obsession over the election. It's been totally disorienting. But if there's one lesson we can take from it, it's that things are unpredictable, and the future is unwritten. So here's my New Year's wish for all of you. Be anarchists. Don't believe the lie that the only way to avoid fascism is to defend American democracy. Don't forget that regardless of government policies or vaccines, what saved our lives thus far is the care, solidarity, and mutual aid we've extended to one another. Don't let the MAGA world define themselves as the only opposition. Don't forget that Biden called for all anarchists to be prosecuted. Don't forget all the people his boss Obama killed with drones or deported through ICE. Whoever's in power, it's up to us to resist with all the force we can muster, until the day when there are no Democrats or Republicans, no cops or prisons, no evictions or landlords, and no Facebook either. Don't disavow who you are and what you believe. Let your black flag fly. Call bullshit on the ruling order. And take care of each other. Huge thanks and shout-outs to all of our radical nurse and healthcare worker comrades, and to all of you on the front lines of mutual aid, eviction defense, prisoner support, anti-fascism, and organizing to abolish the police. We'll see you in the streets. Just remember to mask up. With love and rage, the ex-worker.
You've been listening to Rebel Steps. I'm your host, Liz. See you in 2021. This episode was written, edited, and produced by Amy and myself. Music for this episode was kindly gifted to us by Sephi and also includes a song that I created. Special thanks to all our contributors. Check out the show notes at RebelSteps.com for a list of podcasts who shared messages. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon or sharing this episode with your friends or via social media. This podcast is part of the Channel Zero Network, an anarchist podcast network run by radical media makers.